My wife called me just a roommate dismissing our marriage, but when I discovered her cheating, I made her leave the house for good. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's simple, free, and allows us to keep bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let us keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much now. Let's begin the video. Okay, so I 30 million need to get this off my chest because things have completely gone wrong with my wife, Melissa. 28F, we've been married for 3 years and together for nearly 6. We first met in this bar through mutual friends. She wasn't supermodel hot, but she was obviously lovely and exuded a confident air that drew me in immediately. We hit it off, exchanged numbers, and began dating a few weeks later. The first couple years were actually pretty fantastic. We went on weekend getaways and met each other's families as couples do. Her parents were a little standoffish, but whatever, we moved in together after a year. I proposed on our 2-year anniversary, and we married around 8 months later in a simple ceremony with family and close friends. I purchased a home around 6 months before the wedding. My name appears on everything since I paid the down payment with money. I saved by working my ass off for the first year of marriage. Everything was well. We'd both come home from work, cook dinner together, and watch television. Normal stuff. We discussed having children in a few years. But looking back, I noticed that things began to change around the second year of our marriage. Melissa began to focus more on her work. She works in marketing and has started staying later at work, attending networking events, and spending less time at home. I was supportive because I thought it was good for her career. I took on extra domestic tasks so she could focus on her work. I also started paying most of the bills because she stated that she wanted to advance her job before focusing on money. It started out little with her canceling our date evenings at the last minute due to work. She was constantly on her phone even while we were meant to be spending time together. If I brought it up, she'd become defensive and suggest I wasn't supporting her profession, so I backed off. We stopped doing activities together on weekends. She was either too exhausted from work or had unexpected brunches and shopping outings with her pals, which I was not invited to. I began to feel as if we were simply existing in the same area without truly connecting. She told me a few months ago that her buddy group was planning a meal at a new restaurant downtown and invited me. I was genuinely surprised she hadn't invited me to anything with her pals in months. I wasn't very excited because her buddies are largely marketing public relations professionals who only discuss work turmoil and gossip about people I don't know, but I assumed this was her way of including me more. So we arrived at the restaurant, and there were around 8 people in total. Melissa, me, and 6 of her friends. The room was crowded and noisy, and we ended up at this long table. I was around 3 seats away from Melissa, sandwiched between her buddy Taylor, who was chatting to someone else the entire time, and a guy I had never met before who was addicted to his phone. Basically, I was simply sitting there sipping my soda, without participating in any conversation. No one spoke to me or even acknowledged my existence, to be honest. These things are rather usual. I was used to being the unseen husband by this point. I was spacing out thinking about a job at work when Melissa's friend Caitlin inquired, "So how's married life treating you these days?" The way she stated it was strange, as if there was something underlying the question. That's when I focused on what Melissa was saying. Guys, I swear it felt like someone punched me in the stomach. Melissa snorted dismissively and replied, "Oh, please, he's just my roommate at this point." Only my roommate. I literally froze with my beer halfway to my mouth, who is saying that about their husband. And the way she said it was not a joke. It was as if she were stating an obvious fact that everyone already knew. She even looked at me as she said it, noticing I was paying attention, but she didn't mind. What's worse, her friends' reactions. They all laughed and nodded as if everything was perfectly normal. One of them even said, "Don't all husbands eventually become glorified roommates?" They all cracked up even more, all but one girl, Olivia. She's new to their friend group. I've only met her a few times. She did not laugh. Instead, she gave me a sympathetic gaze. At least one person in this group had a soul, I suppose. I can't remember the rest of the dinner talk. My brain was caught on loop, hearing my wife repeatedly refer to me as her roommate. I continued to eat and drink on autopilot, not saying anything but attempting to understand what had just transpired. The trouble is, she said it without looking at me. She didn't ask if I'd heard, and she didn't care, as if I wasn't even a factor in her life worth considering. Melissa was speaking about trivial topics on the way home, appearing entirely normal while I sat there feeling as if my entire marriage had been nuked. I scarcely answered. only offering one-word answers and nods when we arrived home. She popped down on the couch and scrolled through Instagram like nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just completely degraded our entire relationship in front of all her pals. I stood there for a minute waiting for her to say something, recognize what she said, apologize, anything. But nah, nothing. That's when it occurred to me perhaps this wasn't just a random comment. Maybe this is how she sees me, just a man who stays in the same house and pays his bill. BS, not her spouse, not her partner, only her roommate. I couldn't keep it in anymore, so... Am I really just your roommate now? I inquired, attempting to seem casual despite my feelings. Melissa looked up from her phone, angry to be interrupted. What are you talking about at dinner? You told your friends? I'm just your roommate at this point. She rolled her eyes and returned to scrolling. Oh my God. It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. That's just how we talk. Sometimes didn't sound like a joke. I said, well, it was. She retorted, you're seriously overreacting. Can we not do this right now? I'm tired. And that was all. No apologies. There's no explanation. Not even acknowledging that it might have harmed me, simply disregarding my feelings and making it appear as if I was at blame for being sad. I didn't want to exacerbate the situation because I was still trying to process everything. Plus, I wanted to consider how to approach this. But one thing was clear, something was badly wrong in our relationship, and I couldn't deny it any longer. The next morning, I followed my usual routine on autopilot. Melissa was hurrying around as usual, barely addressing me except to inquire whether I had seen her phone charger. It was just another routine day for her as I drove to work. I kept revisiting that moment from supper in my thoughts. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I've worked hard for years to construct a life with this woman. I purchased the house we live in. I pay the majority of the bills. I've been assisting her career by taking on additional domestic tasks. I've been the one who has put the most effort into our connection. Meanwhile, she has been doing what going out with pals, working late, paying little attention to me. And this is how she views me, just a guy who happens to reside in the same house by the time I arrived at work. I had made a decision. If Melissa prefers a roommate above a husband, she will get one during my lunch break. I opened a new bank account and transferred the majority of our money from our joint account to it. I only left enough to meet my portion of the bills for the month. Not a penny more. I used to pay 80% of everything because I earned more. But roommates split the bill. 50-50 right when I went home that evening. I didn't ask Melissa about her day as I usually would. I did not inform her about I simply said, hey, and went directly to the spare room, where I keep my gaming gear. Usually I'd wait for her to complete work before we decided on dinner, but not tonight. I ordered a pizza just for myself when it arrived. I took a few slices and returned to my game. Melissa entered the room a few minutes later. Bewildered. Did you order pizza? Where's mine? I shrugged, still staring at my tablet. Oh, I just ordered for myself. Figured you'd get something if you were hungry. She waited there for a second, hoping for a more detailed explanation. When I said nothing else, she just murmured, okay, and exited the room. A bit later, I heard her in the kitchen preparing something that marked the beginning of what I now call Operation Roommate. Over the next few weeks, I gradually changed how I interacted with Melissa. I stopped texting her during the day to check in. I stopped getting groceries for her. I stopped washing her clothes with mine. I stopped asking whether she needed anything when I went shopping. I stopped telling her when I was going out or when I would return home. I stopped cooking dinner for both of us, essentially. I stopped doing all the husband's things and began acting like we were just two people sharing a shared space like housemates. Melissa didn't appear to notice right away, or if she did, she said nothing. She still went out a lot, still working late. Even when she was at home, she was glued to her phone. However, after approximately a week, things began to alter. One night she came home, opened the fridge, and gave me an irritated expression. Melissa's buddy was the only one who appeared uncomfortable when Melissa introduced me as her roommate at supper. Hey, Jake, right? She said, walking over Melissa's husband. I know, nodded. Yeah, hey, Olivia. She grinned, surprised. I remember your name. Good memory, didn't know you came here every morning. Their coffee is better than the office stuff. There was an awkward moment. I could sense she wanted to say something, but was unsure whether she should finally. She stated, I've been trying to contact out Melissa's comments at the dinner. A few weeks earlier were appropriate. I simply wanted you to know that not everyone felt it was hilarious. I was surprised that someone acknowledged it. Thanks, I appreciate that. Are you all okay? I mean, it's not my business. I shrugged. We're figuring things out. No way was I going to put my marital issues on someone I barely knew, even if she appeared. Pleasant Olivia nodded. Well, I hope everything works out for what it's worth. I think you seem like a gentleman. This made me grin for the first time in weeks. Thanks, Olivia. We ended up sitting together for about 15 minutes just talking. And it turns out she's actually pretty cool. She works as a physical therapist, arrived to the city about 6 months ago and met Melissa and her group through a common friend. She was easy to talk to, and it felt good to have a real conversation with someone who actually cared about what I had to say. She hesitated before saying, Look, I know this might be weird, but if you ever need someone to talk to, here's my number. She scrolled it on a napkin and gave it to me. I honestly felt it was a bit strange. Like crossing a line, I didn't know precisely what her aim was, but I thought I could use some aid. It also appeared like she was just being polite, thanks. I replied, slipping it into my pocket. I might take you up on that a few days later. I was having an especially frustrating day. Melissa had become increasingly irritated by the roommate situation, grumbling about having to contribute more to bills and calling me juvenile then. I discovered that someone had used our joint credit card, which I believed had been revoked, but evidently wasn't to purchase a $500 purse. 3 guesses who I was sitting in my car in the office parking lot, angry when I remembered Olivia's phone number and decided to call her. Perhaps she knew what Melissa was doing, so I messaged her. Hey, this is Jake, is the offer to chat. Still open, she replied. Almost instantly. Absolutely, is everything okay? We met for coffee after work. I didn't intend to dump everything on her, but staring into her huge, warm eyes. It all came out the roommate joke, how Melissa had been distant for months, and how I'd initiated Operation Room. Roommate, all of it. Olivia simply listened, asking occasional questions rather than passing judgment when I finished. She sighed. I don't know Melissa very well, but based on what I've seen in the group, she talks about you differently when you aren't present? My stomach plummeted. How come Olivia expressed discomfort, saying she complains a lot and says, You're boring. She feels stuck. Wow. I wasn't sure what else to say. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. No, I appreciate your honesty. Seriously, before we went. She touched my arm. Jake, you deserve someone who's proud to be with you, not someone who treats you like an inconvenience. That hit me hard. Because she was correct for the first time, I saw Olivia not simply as Melissa's friend, not just as someone who happens to be present, but as someone who observed me, who saw the cracks. Before I even acknowledged they existed, we began messaging after that. It was just regular conversation how the day went. Little annoyances, inside jokes, but it seemed different for the first time. In a long time, I wasn't just talking to fill the silence someone wanted to hear. What I had to say, no sighing, no eye rolls, just a real chat with someone who cares, and man, I didn't realize how much I missed it till I got it back. Of course, Melissa didn't notice. She was too caught up in her own world, going out many nights a week with business pals, getting home late, and smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. I was not foolish. I knew where this was going, but I wanted proof before making my next step. Now, let me be clear, I'm not the suspicious kind, really. I am not. I've been cheated on before back in college, and I promised myself I wouldn't be that anxious partner who constantly checks phones. However, there is a distinction between being paranoid and just connecting obvious dots. Melissa was displaying all the traditional signs, staying out late. She is being clandestine with her phone. I suddenly made new work buddies that I had never met before, getting suited for office meetings. The cologne fragrance, I mean, come on. I needed to know for sure the setup first. I attempted a straightforward approach, so who is this new work friend you have been spending so much time with? I asked casually one morning. Melissa barely glanced up from her phone. What? Oh, simply members of the marketing staff? No one is interesting. Seems like you're with them a lot lately. She rolled her eyes. What are you doing with my schedule now? She then smirked and created air quotes with her fingers. I thought we were only roommates. I merely shrugged and walked away, just making conversation. I said it was clear that the straight approach would not work, so I made a decision that some people may condemn me for, but whatever I purchased an AirTag. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it refers to a little tracking gadget manufactured by Apple. You're intended to use it to find your keys or baggage, but people also use it for other purposes. I waited for a morning when Melissa was still asleep. Her automobile keys were on the counter as usual. I quickly took them, inserted the AirTag into a little compartment in the center console, where she stores spare cash and receipts, and returned the keys. The whole thing took about 30 seconds. The truth comes out. Melissa texted the next day, stating she'd be working late again and asked not to wait. The timing was ideal for testing my new setup around 6 p.m. I launched the Find My app on my phone to verify the AirTag's location. It showed that her automobile was on the move. I watched her drive not toward her downtown workplace, but I'm going to a luxury apartment complex on the city's north side. Her automobile came to a stop about 6:45 p.m. My heart pounded. Part of me hoped for an innocent explanation like a friend living there or a work event, but deep down I knew I watched her movements for 3 days and discovered a clear pattern. Tuesday, she told me she was having dinner with coworkers. Her car was at the same apartment complex from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday, she said she had a client meeting. Car was at the apartment complex from 6:30 p.m. to nearly midnight throughout all of this. I texted Olivia, not telling her what I was doing, but screaming about Melissa's blatant lies. Olivia was supportive but cautious. Are you certain you want to know? She texted sometimes. Finding out only makes things worse, I need to know. I told him I'm tired of being played for a fool the following Tuesday when Melissa stated she had another late meeting. I told her I was going to grab drinks with some guys from work and wouldn't be home till late, which was obviously a lie instead. I parked down the street from the apartment complex and waited. Melissa's car arrived at 6:30 p.m., and I watched as she parked, checked her cosmetics in the mirror, got out, and walked to one of the buildings, typing a code at the door and entering. I sat there for maybe 15 minutes debating what to do next. Part of me wanted to storm in, catch them in the eye, and make a big scene. But what would that accomplish? More drama? No thanks. Instead, I took pictures of her car in the lot in the building. She entered, then took a deep breath and drove home. Melissa was cheating on me, and now I had all the proof I needed. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I called Olivia on the way home, and when she answered, I simply stated, "You were right about everything." "Oh, Jake," she whispered softly. "I am so sorry. What are you planning to do?" "I don't know yet." I told her, but I'm done, being just her roommate. I slept in the spare room that night, and Melissa didn't notice. I wasn't in our bed when she arrived home after midnight the following day. I called in ill to work because I couldn't concentrate on spreadsheets and meetings when my marriage was collapsing. I spent the morning researching divorce lawyers and found one with positive reviews who could see me that afternoon. When I got down with him, I explained everything: the roommate comment, the infidelity, the housing issue, and our money. "So what am I looking at here?" I inquired after explaining everything. The lawyer leaned back in his chair and said, "Well, you're in a fairly solid legal position. The house is in your name, and you owned it before marriage, therefore. It is probably protected. Having no children simplifies things. Virginia is not a no-fault state, thus her adultery could benefit you. The important question is, how contentious do you want this to be?" I considered it. I don't want drama, I just want out, the lawyer smirked, a smart man. Those who want vengeance end up paying me a lot more money. He then gave me a knowing glance. "Let's start drafting the paperwork. Meanwhile, document everything: her absence is evidence of the affair and financial documents, and don't tell her you're filing until we're prepared." I paid his retainer and departed, feeling lighter as if I'd finally taken control of the problem when I arrived home. Olivia texted me, "How are you doing?" I proposed we meet for coffee, and she accepted. We met at a quiet small area a few towns away, where Melissa's pals wouldn't notice us. Olivia looked troubled when she saw me. "You look exhausted," she remarked. "Haven't been sleeping much." I admitted, absently stirring my coffee. "I met with a divorce lawyer today." Her eyes widened. "Wow, that was fast once I learned for certain about the cheating." "It wasn't a difficult decision. Our marriage has been dead for several months." She nodded. "I understand, but it's still a big, big step." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand, a swift, encouraging gesture that seemed more genuine than any contact I'd had from Melissa in months. "What happens now?" She asked. "A lawyer is preparing the papers. I am gathering evidence, then I serve her and ask her to go." "Sheck not going to like that." I shrugged tough. She should have considered that before cheating on me. We talked for nearly 2 hours, not only about the divorce, but about everything. Our careers, kids, favorite movies, and vacation adventures. It was so easy to chat to Olivia. There was no judgment, no stress, just two individuals who were truly interested in what the other had to say. When we eventually said our goodbyes, she hugged me and whispered, "You could be fine." Jake, better than okay. For the first time in weeks, I truly believed it. Over the next few days, I kept gathering evidence, taking screenshots of our bank statements, proving I paid for everything, downloading records of Melissa's credit card charges, fancy restaurants. I never went to hotel charges on nights she was supposed to be with friends, and backing up her AirTag location history. Put everything in a folder for my lawyer, Richard Melissa. On the other hand, was entirely unconcerned, continuing with her usual schedule of getting home late, barely speaking to me, and spending weekends with friends. The arrogance of it all only increased my determination. Olivia and I texted every day at that time. Nothing unto happened. And I was not going to be a cheater. Like Melissa, what about Olivia? She was the first person in a long time who genuinely cared about me, and I wasn't going to be a cheater, but we were definitely getting closer. She told me about her previous relationships, her difficult family, and I opened up about things I hadn't told anyone in years. She made me laugh when I didn't think I could, and I thought it was nice to have someone supportive through all of this. The divorce papers were ready a week later, and the lawyer suggested that Melissa be served unexpectedly, preferably with a witness present. "You want someone there who can verify how it went down," he told me, "especially if she gets emotional or makes threats." Oh, without thinking twice, I requested Olivia to be my witness. She consented quickly. "I'll be there," she texted, "whatever you need." I chose the date for Friday night, knowing Melissa would be home. It was time to end this farce of a marriage once and for all. Friday arrived faster than I expected, and I spent the morning going over the plan with the lawyer, making sure I understood exactly what to say and how to handle various circumstances. He handed me the divorce papers in a manila envelope that felt far too light for something so significant. Olivia sent me supportive texts throughout the day. "You can do this, stay strong. I'll be there," simple words, but they were helpful. We decided to meet at a coffee shop near my house at 6 p.m. Melissa normally arrived home around 7:00 p.m. on Fridays, when she wasn't going straight to her jerk's place, and the plan was for Olivia to come over around 6:30, after which we'd wait for Melissa together. We remained there for a while, not really drinking our coffees, just passing the time, and at 6:25 we drove to my house. Olivia's automobile was far finer than I expected. A luxury SUV that must have cost a fortune. We came into the house, and I paused for a moment. It seemed strange having Olivia, Melissa's old friend, in our space, except it wasn't our space anymore, and Olivia wasn't Melissa's friend anymore. I gave her a quick tour, pointing out different objects to break the stillness. She grinned that little knowing smile. "You don't have to give me the real estate agent." "Walker Jake, I'm only here for moral support." I chuckled and rubbed the back of my neck. "Yeah, I guess I'm just not accustomed to." You know someone truly wants to be here. She angled her head as if she were reading between the lines, and then, as we came to a halt in the living room, she reached out and adjusted my shirt collar, smoothing it down with a slight touch as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I froze, but the way she did it so familiar and casual made my gut knot. It had been a long time since someone touched me with affection rather than obligation. There, she whispered, her fingertips lingering for just a second too long before she stepped back. "You're all set." I gulped and tried to ignore the heat rising up my neck. Thanks." She just smirked and popped down on the couch as if she had always belonged there any time. And just like that, I started seeing Olivia in a way I hadn't before. Around 7:10, I heard Melissa's car pull into the driveway. Olivia and I were sitting in the living room, the divorce papers neatly put out on the coffee table waiting. Everything was in place, the front door opened, and Melissa walked in as casually as ever, taking a few steps before she noticed us. Then halted, her eyes shifting from me to Olivia and back again. "What is going on?" she asked, her tone already defensive. "Why is she here?" I stood up and said, "We need to talk, Melissa." Her gaze clouded as she glanced at Olivia once more. "Why is she here for that? This is our house. Sheck here as a witness?" I added, picking up the envelope and allowing her to sense the gravity of the situation before passing it over. Melissa folded her arms a witness to what I handed her the paperwork and said, "I'm filing for divorce." The way her expression plummeted was priceless, as if her brain had short-circuited and was fumbling for an answer. "Divorce," she echoed. She scoffed as if grasping at straws. "Are you serious? Are you over your little roommate tantrum?" "No," I answered, unshaken because you're cheating on me and have been for months. She gave out a sharp, forced laugh. "That's ridiculous. I am not cheating on you, don't—" I interrupted her performance. "I know about the guy at the Parkview Apartments. I know how frequently you're there." Her face lost its color. "Did you follow me? What the hell?" "Jake," I shook my head, amused by how fast she transferred the blame I didn't need to. "I tapped my phone. I have weeks of proof. Every late night, every business function, every ladies' night out. All leading to the same place." Her eyes shifted to Olivia, then back to me, and her shock turned into rage. "Did you trace me? That is crazy." She then pointed toward Olivia, spitting the words as if they would burn. "So you brought her here for this." She had been yearning for this moment since the day she met you. Olivia did not react. She did not have to. "I wasn't going to let Melissa change the script. Olivia has nothing to do with this," I said with confidence. "This is about you, your choices, and the fact that you got caught." Melissa's arms tightened across her chest, shifting gears, so I botched up Jake. "Sometimes people make mistakes. That doesn't mean we throw everything away." Her voice softened and her gaze focused on mine. "We can repair this, counseling, a fresh start. I'll stop seeing him. Let's talk about it alone." She gave Olivia a stare as if she could remove her from the room. That was when I twisted the knife. I leaned back and gave her the same blank stare she'd given me so many times. "Why are you upset anyway?" I inquired, my tone tinged with contempt. "I'm just your roommate, right? That's what you wanted." She scoffed and rolled her eyes as if I were the one being ridiculous. "That you're still mad about that." "Jake, it was a joke." I nodded as if I had finally understood her argument. "Oh, right, it was a joke. Hilarious." I tilted my head. "Wait, so you do joke about replacing your husband with another guy?" Just checking. Her jaw tightened. But I was not finished. "You were right, though," I said, my voice silky. "We're just roommates, and since I'm the one paying the majority of the rent." I motioned toward the door. "Yeah, I'm going to need you to pack up and get the hell out of my house." She totally lost it. I started crying, screaming, throwing things. "The works," he called me, every name in the book. Then went begging, and then back to fury. Classic manipulative tactics may have worked on me in the past, but not longer. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked repeatedly, as if it were my responsibility to fix. I shrugged. I don't know, maybe your boyfriend's place? You seem to spend enough time there already that just made her angrier. She eventually stormed out, slamming the door so forcefully that a picture tumbled from the wall. Olivia assisted me in cleaning up the mess Melissa had left behind. That went about as well as expected. I said a tempting AO key broke. Olivia offered me a compassionate grin. You did great, stood your ground. Melissa returned the next day with her friend Tayer, intending to simply move back in like nothing had happened. I'd replaced the locks that were stuck outside, calling my phone and knocking on the door. I didn't respond, instead texting her that she could come grab her belongings on Saturday when I'd have my brother with me. That Saturday was tense. My brother Mike arrived early, which was fortunate, given that Melissa arrived with Taylor and her father. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.